Okay, yeah, I think we're recording now, but I also want to hit share because I want to go isn't that beautiful?
That's just the top part.
I know. So we'll go down the flow of water. And yeah, and while we're doing this, yeah, I'm really feeling it because I know the people in North Carolina, I mean, because I go there frequently to Chapel Hill area, and the things that they have there that we don't, that are really kind of a weird part of their terrain, aside from nuclear power plants, they've got like 6 or 7 of them around, that are coal ash pits where the burned residue from coal heating, running for electricity, they take that as a slurry and they just dump it into these pits that are right near the river. So they just are earthen dams and they leak, and they're full of heavy metals. They're full of all kinds of really weird toxic stuff. And normally they will stay put, and they dry with kind of a hard surface. They could have done something else. This was just the cheapest thing to do. And the other thing that they have, and this makes you probably won't ever eat bacon again when you hear this. They have these enormous hog farms, and they have these huge pits where they put all I mean, it's huge. They're huge lakes of incredible, terrible, horrible stench, including dead pigs. I mean, they use it, and all of this is threatening to be overwhelmed by the flooded. The nuclear reactors, which have no defense against flooding because no one thought to build that in because of something like this. I mean, global warming's changed the terrain completely. Anyway, we'll just put a prayer out there. Everybody does okay there. And for us, let's see, some of us here, most everybody has one of these. I don't know. You never got one of these, did you? Kate never did. But I'm passing out to her. And I don't know, Mike, if you ever got one. Yeah, you have one on your refrigerator? Yeah. It's I always like reviewing it because it's a transition from noun subject object based thinking into verb based thinking, and it's like a declaration of an allegiance to flow and to metaphoric language rather than to objective thinking. Objective. That doesn't mean a movement away from science, because as you guys know, the empirical reality of the scientific foundation for the things that we do has to be there because things actually have to work. I mean, that's our plan. But so our motive here, opening our eyes, our minds, and our hearts, especially to this moment, even though there may be grief involved, even though there's like desperation, even though there's damage happening, there's frightened people, it's like we're opening to the present moment and dealing with whatever we have here, whatever comes up. But our mission is this is a movement from what used to be shamanism in the domain of just a very few into the evolutionary necessity that's calling all of us now. It's calling everyone. It's just that you guys have been attending to it. You've been a part of a field that says it's important to find out somehow how this gift within me can find expression. One of the reasons why we do look for expression of the gift within us is that it's irritating. It's frustrating. It's frustrating being us. It's always been like an issue. It's always been awkward. It's always like we're the ones with the weird questions. We're the ones that always have the thing where I'm not going along with that. I mean, it's always some compelling thing inside of us that makes us feral, I think, but spirited, hopefully, and agile too, and resourceful. As we speak, I had an opportunity to do this last night. I just slipped into it accidentally. We had one of our musical events that we have at Ives Park in Sebastopol, and I have a moment of silence that I call people to. And I don't know, I just started going off talking about the sky and the coral reefs and the oceans inside of people's hearts, and it was like didn't seem to stop anybody from getting quiet. They all did. We had 2,200 people, and I would say 2,000 of them moved to silence.
I'd say more.
More.
I'd say like 2,150.
Yeah, we just had a few people talking around the edges, but to have 2,000 people move to a very deep silence, and this silence that we move to is not it's It's not a memorial silence. It is not the deep silence of, of distress, of going to like empathy. It's a place of finding joy and peace and being willing to share it. So speaking truth and beauty and wisdom and wild poetry can really shift an awful lot. I am really hoping when we talk a little bit later that the healing work that we do of ourselves, our families, our friends, and our world, of course, our world has a lot to be desired for sure. And even our friends too, although, we love them, and our families is always an issue, but to start from that place of healing within ourselves and to always have that allegiance is this path of mutual benefit that we're on. So it's really important that we note that we have a responsibility, a responsiveness to family and friends and to the world. The bottom line for everything we do, and this is just the most unusual bottom line, is that everything, it has to be fun. I mean, I know that there's a component to what we do that's effort. There's a component where sometimes we get frustrated and stressed and distressed and going like, what the heck? But the ultimate bottom line is that life has to have enjoyment to it. Otherwise, we're on the wrong path. And if we're really not having enjoyment, that's a real clue that we've got to work on the love and peace and sense of abundance. Everything else comes from that. Fun is fundamental. It really is.
Amen.
We got an amen over here. I can see Greg's agreeing with this too, because he's got his and then giving our gifts to the world. This is going to take it off of this now. The shamanic view of each of us is that we are a gift that is being given to the world by a deeper responsive presence, us. That it's us. It's a cosmic thing. When you start speaking through the personalities of people to the elemental essential being that's present, you really do get a sense for this, how each person that you look at is a gift being given in that moment, and that giftedness has now become essential. I think maybe it was optional in a tribal setting. People could go about normal business and rely on a few people to express giftedness. And also those people were the ones who always celebrated. They always said things like, the way you make arrowheads is just fantastic. The things that you do are incredible. That, yeah, you really have a way with setting bones. You're really good. You're really good with the children. To celebrate others' giftedness has always been our responsibility. To have that gift come present, which was the real role of the shaman, was to be a gift, was to be the gift, and to spot the gifts when they were born. Like the way I feel about you guys, I really have this out of time relationship where I wish I had been in a tribal culture. I wish I had been there when you were born, so I could have spotted you and told your parents, oh, time out. We're going to do things differently for this child than has been done, because the experimental resourcefulness, I don't know, just the idea of multidimensionality is something that is something that children naturally have, but some children are wildly gifted in it, and it's what you guys are bringing. So from that point of view, I think that the work that we've done, the shaman is a gift. Now the gift is essential from everybody. We really want to evoke this from everybody. And what we're establishing is reciprocal relationships with creation. That relationship where you as a personality are an embodiment of, I don't even want to call it divine anymore, because who knows, but of the ineffable presence of life affirming, loving, and caring for life that is speaking through you in this moment. Even though we restrict that down and consider ourselves a personality, that's not really what's happening. And in reciprocity, we're related and connected to all of life. So in a way, a shortcut way of saying this is from our trip to Montana, that going into the mountains and into nature, we are moving from egoic personalities to ecoic personalities. You are an ecosystem, and you're connected to everything in it. So some of the questions that we might have later about speaking with plants, speaking with rocks. I mean, Lucy's over there. Lucy's on the altar. I'll show her to you later because I know she wants to see you guys. Cats, trees, all of creation that we communicate with. This reciprocity that is another way of describing our multidimensionality. This reciprocity is our interconnectedness with everything. And it's a state of being, not a state of doing. So there's not much that you can do about this, but there's a whole lot that you can be. So, and it's kind of an art form. What I'm trying to describe is something that sounds paradoxical. It's like when you play guitar, you have to be totally relaxed to be able to play it. And play the piano, you don't work the piano, although you do rehearse and you do have a discipline. But the act of making music is play. It's fun. It's fun as fundamental. So there's always a paradox built into this. And I think the paradox is more in our language. But this place of reciprocity that is our invitation. And it's an invitation to recognize this is the equinox coming that we're preparing for. We are finding a way deep into a vortex that communicates to us, that alerts us as to the incoming energies that are coming from some of the key events that we have. Like the equinox actually is a moment of harmony. It's not a moment of balance. And because we're not in a static system where the sun is in the center and we are going around it. The sun is on a leading edge, spinning on the edge of a galaxy, and we are trailing behind it in this huge vortex. So the idea, if we can eliminate this idea that there's a heliocentric sun that we have this ever-changing relationship with, and recognize that we are in this vortex moving, and these moments of harmony, these moments of opportunity happen as much because of our relationship with the Milky Way and with the cosmos at large as they do with our own sun. It's a big picture thing. From a really practical point of view, I was thinking about this journey that we take out of personality and into a deeper reality, and looking for guidance, because it is like jumping off. I mean, that tarot card that shows the Fool, it's called the Fool for a reason, is stepping off of tangible reality into there's nothing there, you know. That nothing, of course, we know is a field of black light. We know it's a field of abundance, but it's called the Fool for a reason, right? That card is called the Fool, but other people have called it different things. And so I want to refer to a few that I want to share with you. Joseph Campbell, of course, who is one of the most beautiful teachers of mythology. He said, it's by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. And where you stumble, there lies your treasure. So this is a counterintuitive hint about where our giftedness is. Our giftedness is not in plain sight, just like a cake waiting for us to cut into it. Our giftedness is something quirky that is hiding under an area. All the old stories, like the hero's journey, which is what Joseph talks about, is the journey of, like, you're uncomfortable in your environment, things aren't working, there's not enough of anything, and you go on a journey. And then you go here and you confront this and you do this and you do that, and there's dragons and there's abysses and there's like this, you know, a terrible, wonderful things and terrible tragedies. And then finally you end up home all bedraggled and everything, none the better off for the entire journey, except you walk across the floor of the living room, and that place that you stumble on the rug, you say, what the hell is that? You pull the rug back and it's a trap door. You open the trap door and there's a tremendous treasure. It's been there all along. It was in the last place you looked. As a matter of fact, that was one of the inscrutable things that, what are they called? The Greek oracles. They would say things like this that are really frustrating. You will find the treasure you seek in the last place you look.
That's awesome.
Well, that's where I found my car keys. But their meaning and the level that that language was speaking at was that you'll find the treasure when you stop seeking. Because as you seek it, it eludes you. We know this, that I've described it to you before. What we pursue eludes us. What we need and what we desperately try to bring to us eludes us. We have to involve ourselves in some kind of counterintuitive move, which we're going to do tonight. And that move is moving towards the place that is the radial rug, that thing that's been thrown across the portal, the gateway of our awareness. And our invitation is going to be to step into a vortex and allow ourselves to, in community and sharing this together. And it's also something you can do. Go to a deeper place, go to a deeper, higher, more expansive place where we see a bigger picture. And then we're going to report back. We're going to create a group mind here and see what we think about the equinox before it comes so that we can report to others. In our tradition, what we use the medicine wheel. And I was thinking about these schematics that we use, like the Christian cross is a really interesting one, because the schematic that we use, if I could illustrate it, is the equal cross. That's the medicine wheel that's in a spin. And the different portals are the great ones that we work with that, well, I also was thinking about Carl Jung, because I was thinking about, why do we psychopathologize our experience? Why do we take our own experience and create this enormous negativity around it that makes it seem like what we're up to when we're exploring, making mistakes is depression or despondency or really being off the deep end, or, or especially in the work that we're doing, if you begin to get multidimensional, that starts to look pretty weird to other people, or it can. It's like, what are you talking about? Coral reefs of the heart, where does that kind of thinking come from? So I'll come back to the medicine wheel and the cross in a moment, because there's also, I want to introduce an element of like how our energetic forms have been co-opted and hidden in a place that is oftentimes, like in the case of the swastika, which is a 12,000-year-old image that is all over the world and used by Native people to represent a double vortex, a vortex moving and a vortex crossing it. And at that crossing point is a place of deep spinning connectedness. And of course, the horrifying, Nazi Germany and their use of the swastika. Of course, they didn't use it the way Native peoples do all around the world, but that's an example of one. The cross is another example of one. But let's get to the core of it, because in our Western civilization, Freud, and psychiatry called civilization our shared anxiety. Yeah. So what we call civilization, it reminds me of Gandhi when he went to England. He was at they brought him to the House of Lords to meet everybody and so they toured him around. They were showing him all of, England and its majesty. And so they said to him, like, so Mr. Gandhi, how do you feel about Western civilization? What do you think about it? He said, I think it would be a good idea. So he saw through the shared anxiety that is the field of contraction and distress that is prevalent. And now, you guys, in our so-called Western civilization, it's obvious. I mean, we have a president that's gone into a state of paranoid schizophrenia. I mean, he is absolutely Looney Tunes right now. And his tweets are coming out of a realm that everyone's going like, ooh, just let him. He called 911 7-Eleven in a speech. I mean, he's like disoriented. So kind of the cat's out of the bag that our shared anxiety is not actually a civilization. But there were people that were unhappy with the psychopathologizing of experience. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that our approach is to where we're uncomfortable. Our approach has to be to where we have hidden, where we've pulled the rug over the place where the portal is open for us. So it's a counterintuitive move that we have to make, of opening to the present moment in the face of distress. What stops us from going there is that we psychopathologize distress and say, no, you've got to be happy. You know, having fun is not about being happy. Having fun is like fundamental. I mean, you know, this is English again that we're working with. But anyway, let me get to Carl Jung. He went and studied, and here we go. He saw the limits of psychology, and he thought that Freud was hysterical, quite frankly. And Carl Jung was interested in shamanism. And he became interested in, and he started, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Red Book. It is this huge book that he began to log strange experiences of ghosts coming and knocking at his window panes and wanting to talk to him about, could they find forgiveness and how would they do, you know, things. I mean, shamanic work that's familiar to us. Can you imagine that like 100 years ago? It'd be like Carl Jung going like, I'm supposed to be the sane one here, you know, I'm not supposed to. So he had this big red book that he would write all this stuff down in. It was called the Red Book. And he got interested in Native American culture, and he went to the Taos Pueblo, but south of the Taos Pueblo is where he was taken. And he met with a native elder, Antonio Mirabel, whose name was Ochule Binote. His name is Mountain Lake, Joseph Rael's grandfather. Yeah. And he wanted to learn. He wanted Joseph Rael's grandfather to teach him indigenous wisdom. And Mountain Lake said, no. Said, you coming from your culture and what you're doing, you have to step up, but I will share this with you. And what Carl took back was, well, this is a dialogue that just blows my mind. I want to share it with you. They were talking about wisdom, and Mountain Lake said to Carl Jung, you know, white people, Western civilization people, are always uneasy and restless. This is the shared anxiety of what we call civilization. And he said, we don't understand them. We don't understand white people. We think you're mad. And Carl, with an idea of insanity, you know, and psychology said, why do you think that they're mad? And he said, and Mountain Lake said, white people think they say they think with their heads, and we think here. So he was indicating his heart, but he didn't say heart, because what he's indicating is a form of alignment where the heart is also present. It isn't like, oh, just start thinking with your heart and be kind to everybody and give sandwiches to. He wasn't indicating that. He was saying, we think here, embodied, encouraged in our hearts and innately intelligent. We don't separate and think here. So now let's go to the Christian cross. So the cross, as you guys know, instead of having the equilateral bars, which are the old temple designs and the foundation of the medicine, what we call the medicine wheel, the vortexes of it, it's moved up. So what it is that you're off your center. The image that's being given to you is to move off of this central position and to move up where the dominant field is Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And she is somewhere separated down. She is, and the history of Christianity is the history of exploitation and abuse and domination and predation on women and on the feminine and on animals and on creatures. And it has the rationale held up here out of the fray for tremendous damage, which has continued, and we call that Western civilization. The swastika, which is an older image than that, was two vortexes. We can't really use it. I am still uncomfortable using it just because it was so co-opted. But what I want you to know is that if you think that vortex, that on our medicine wheel model, that these are energy forms that are not only moving, but that the whole field is actually moving. It's not static, in other words, it's dynamic. And that's important because when you start moving into these places, there are movements that will take you around, and rather than being disoriented, there's a way of holding intention for centrality that will take you there. So let's work on that just for a moment. Isn't that crazy? They think with their heads, as if you could actually think with your head. So what Carl Jung took back was, we call these fields awareness, where the sun comes up, embodiment. There's arguments, but for us here on the West Coast, embodiment's the South. Embodiment is the place that is, this is the North, this is the South, just the way we're organized, we think. We'll argue that point. Embodiment, flow, which is where the sun sets, where change happens, where everything, actually the sun never does set when we know that, but still, this place of relativity where things flow. And then the North is this place that we call spirit. So we call this awareness, embodiment, flow, and spirit, or great mystery. But we don't mean great like huge, we mean great like great. Great spirit, it is. Carl took back mind, body, emotions, and spirit, and introduced that as a template. In the Pueblo cultures, I just want you to know this, that Joseph Rael came out of. You have to know that Carl adjusted it just like coastal tribal peoples see it, because there the rivers run south. All the big river systems move down. And Barbara, you know this, like these great rivers that we participated in all end up going down into the Gulf. I mean, the Mississippi, I mean, everything that leads to the Mississippi, all the great rivers. And so water goes to the south. And so they put water in the south for that reason, because they felt that that was natural. And as far as the sun setting in the west, they said that must be the place of embodiment, because our ancestors came from, I mean, they have their own reasons. I don't go for it, but I don't go for the argument, but I can understand how they came up with it. But even they talk about the red road, and the red road is the road from embodiment to spirit, which is a path that we take also. So we have gates of perception. There's realms of perception in awareness, in our embodiment, in flow, what we call flow, which is not just emotions, it's many other things too. Everything flows. Everything's always changing. I guess maybe that's the way I should put it, is that, so we're reluctant to embrace change because we want things to stay, except for Barbara, we're all reluctant to embrace change. Barbara just changes like that. I mean, she's just like, okay, we're going to change. We're going to do it at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever. Right, Barbara? I know it's crazy, but for the most part, we're reluctant, and we feel that change is a devastating imposition on us. The fact is that everything is changing all the time. That is the dimension we're in. So in these dimensions of awareness, embodiment, flow, and spirit, our domestication has created guards at those gates that have been like rugs that are pulled over the opening into that dimension. Oh, cool, we have Aquila joining us. Hey, man.
Hi, how are
Welcome.
Mhm.
I just want to show you guys him. You can say hi.
you? Hello.
That's you.
How's everybody doing?
Isn't that cool that I
Love
can do
it.
that? Look at the big
Yeah.
screen. It's nice. Yeah, you're just in time. These guards were your parents' idea of how to keep you safe that became internalized. So they're called the guards at the gates of perception. And they want to protect us from what's dangerous. Unfortunately, what's really dangerous is you. You are the agents of unexpected change, transformation, flowering, giftedness. And what they are trying to protect the world and you from was yourself, disguised as motorcycle rides across the northern part of Spain. You know, I mean, disguised as any number of things, disguised as don't reach too high because I don't want to see you disappointed because I'm disappointed. Those kinds of things. And we internalize these structures and we begin to guard the gates of perception. We begin to pull ratty old rugs and admire the designs on them across our own capacities. So what's guarding the treasure and the gift of us is our own, God, what would we call it? Our own energetic defensive structures that are designed to protect us from hurting, from pain, from distress, from loss, from grief, really from anything real, from disappointment. And these things are inherited not just from our parents, but epigenetically, they're patterns that our families hold that are like what's common sense in our family. And then you get in a family, you get someone, we were talking about how Carl Jung was opposed to the pathologizing of our experience. You get in your family someone who is wild, your mother. You get a wild being who is a gift and is vibrant and is alive, and the whole system conspires to shut that down because it's too much. You're too much. And I don't really understand how you could be too much and not enough at the same time, because they also tell you you're not enough, you're not performing, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you are still too much. Somehow you're trapped in an energetic investment in not winning. It's a no-win. And so this gift of who you are, it's hidden in plain sight. If you have a seer who sees you energetically, and of course there's different ways of seeing, okay? And also I want to point out that one of the things that we've been introducing is listening. Listening tunes you to the field of the subtle, that is the realm of neurophysiological growth. As a matter of fact, talking with Joseph about this, I talked with him about this yesterday. Listening is a faster path to neurological awakening of the field of possibility. But the listening has to be done at a very deep level, and it's a very subtle, it's an expansion of subtle awareness of what we're really hearing and what really, I think it's the realm where it's shown that chanting and meditation can benefit people even if they don't know. Suddenly they're listening to vowel sounds, and those vowel sounds are resonating some part of them, and that part of them is awakening because it's outside of the realm of the limitations of our language, right? You know, it's like, how crazy is that? Well, Joseph, his sound chambers are places where people go into and they do ah, e, o. It's the Spanish verb sounds, oo. And these are also the energetic vortexes of the directions. So if you find, when we do this in a little while, that a tone begins to emerge, let it. It's not a performance. There's something emerging from inside of you that is communicating a vibrational field. So underneath A-E, underneath that E sound is the ever flowing, the waves breaking, the ocean with each of us an individual wave that we think we're a personality, but in fact we're all just water. You know, I mean, it's like underneath that E sound, things begin to reveal themselves, and your entry into the vortex of the gift of yourself and the gift that you're bringing, and the gift that is here for us, that is necessary for life on our planet. All that begins to come together. So I hate to refer to him, you know, just as casually as a teacher, but Jesus, when he spoke to his disciples, they all wanted to know, where's heaven? They were very, very fond of the idea that there was going to be heaven that you could get to, and they wanted it now. They didn't want to wait. So it was sort of like, Jesus, you keep talking about heaven. Well, you know, open the door and let us in. You know, where is it? If you're from heaven, you say your Father's in heaven. Come on, let's get some traction here on heaven. And he kept replying with these inscrutable metaphoric things, and that actually weren't. On the one that I'm happiest with of all of his reports about heaven is that the kingdom of heaven surrounds us, but we don't see it until you do. So seeing and hearing are both extrasensory perceptions. You guys, and I have never had confusion with any of us. I mentioned this because I had a client the other day that was all thinking paranormal pursuits were like the next evolutionary step for her. And the paranormal is a total misunderstanding. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of confusion and loss and despair and distress. And when you move into spirit, you're lost and confused and don't know what's going on. You guys have read Martin Prechtel's book, The Smell of Rain on Dust. He reveals there a lot of the energy things behind this field of shamanism that we work in that are, you know, quite frankly, spooky in the sense that lost, confused people stay lost and confused. And they are the epigenetic energy that causes us to move into a field of their distress and to limit ourselves while they, you know, we're limited by their confusion. Another way of saying this is hurt people, confuse people, abuse people. You know, to continue those kinds of patterns is what we're talking about healing ourselves from. So the difficult thing here is without psychopathologizing your experience, the invitation for what we're going to do, and we'll use our tone, and we're all going to do this together, and it'll be short but sweet, and then we'll come back and we'll take a little bit of a break. Well, remember back to the thing I show you about our system and how we have a nervous system and we have a metabolic brain, the world of the snake. We have a limbic brain that's tucked inside, that's the world of the jaguar. We have a neocortex folded over. A neurophysiologist, neurobiologist will show you this image of your hand as how we're structured. And when this is contracted, this is Western civilization, a state of anxiety and contraction. When the system is contraction, it's disempowered. And what we've been working towards experiences of is opening. Along the way, Abby, you know, you see it with people all the time. Along the way of opening, there's this takes intention to become agile and to become flexible in it, to open a system and have it be, you know, this is just as distressed a system. The idea is to come to that place of heart where body, heart, and mind are in synergy with each other, not just the open system. So my point there is that people that pursue Eastern modalities and move to enlightenment and sit in a cave, because that's the only place they can be to continue to be enlightened, have missed the point of enlightenment. Enlightenment is the first step. Opening is the first step to becoming agile and creative and resourceful with this open system. But you remember where this starts. You notice your distress, notice that you're being shut down, and that's the cue to remind yourself to, in the face of what distresses me, I choose to open to the present moment. That's our start. I open to the present moment with love and without fear. I create that harmony. So where we're going is we're looking for, in these different dimensions, and I will scan across them, and your mission is to allow something to emerge as a little point of discomfort from one of these areas. You're looking for the thing that makes you say, I'm backing away from that, because that is the rug over the treasure. And that treasure is the gift. That treasure is the gift that you're bringing. It's the resource that is desperately needed here, which is why shamanism has now, the confusion we're having with it, or the difficulty, is that the indigenous frames of it applied to another time. Now the evolutionary imperative is for all of us to awaken to the gifts that we are and to bring those gifts to life. starting with you and you and you and you. I know you guys kind of see each other, but we're going to start with Akila, and then we're going with Mike, and we're going to go all the way around here, and then all of you. Yeah, it wouldn't take that many people. We have enough people just even in our small gathering here to create radiance throughout our world, to begin creating movement in the vortexes that are being contained. From that point of view, I think looking at the swastika, it's a vortex image that has been co-opted and damaged by the toxicity of the insanity that the humans are capable of. I mean, truly, to have destroyed something that is so fundamentally like double vortexes or multiple vortexes. And the cross is another co-option of it too. So our model is going to be to think of these realms as we discuss them, is to go, maybe we'll go to a place of centrality first, and then we'll allow these, I don't think it's an inner experience where you close your eyes and you're just kind of going like, I skipped dinner for this. Maybe I can get pizza later. It's not really an inner experience. It's also not an open eye experience of like, I wonder what's going on there. I wonder what's going on. We wonder what's going on with you. It's a halfway experience where you allow yourself to move into a place in between. It's a place neurologically of great subtlety and nuance, because you're present, but you're drifty, but you're allowing, rather than rather than seeking, where did I lose my keys? You left them in the last place you'll look. So this is the last place we need to look. This place right there. So we'll go into that. I don't know, Elaine, maybe I'll do the ringing of it so that you can just, instead of having to work. Yeah, let me do the big one. We have a frequency. Hey, so Elaine, tell us about this frequency. Elaine's going to talk to us for a minute.
So this frequency is...
Can you guys hear her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
It's what is said to shed light on your DNA and get it to say, oh, I'm not functioning in the most efficient way, so I better rearrange myself so that I am functioning in the most efficient way. And it does it in just the most delicious feelings that you could possibly imagine. So we can hear that.
What is the frequency?
Awesome.
Oops.
I'll hit it.
526 hertz.
Yeah. So let me get this back on. Okay.
Which one do you want?
I'll use the soft one, the soft mallet. Yeah. So a translation of that, because that is, I mean, that's the work that's being done with sound and vibration. Is that this actually evokes the light, the field of light that's held in the double spiral. So those double spirals are love without fear, where you have a biophotonic field of you reaching up into light, one strand of your DNA, and light reaching down into matter, which is like love without fear, those two spirals. That is your DNA strands. And in the center of it, the center place that we're going to start so that we can look from a place of centrality is the light itself. You are a light-based being. Not only are you a light-based being externally, not only are you a biophotonic field of radiance and more than that, glowing fields of giftedness, you also, inside of what we think of as matter, is the fluid light of life itself flowing. So that is what is being toned here. So remember that sound I was talking about, that E sound, or the ah, a, o, u? This is a sound that your DNA listens to and says something.
Yay.
It says yay.
Yay.
And we'll find out what. So now, Elaine and I were talking about this kind of stuff, and she brought out this little thing with a little tuning fork and hit it and said, how about that? And I went to my little closet and pulled it out and said, how about that? So that's the sound that we're going to work with.
Wait, I have
Oh,
to-
she's
I have to
oh,
do
she's
that.
going to hit it. Yeah, she's got one too. I'll show you hers. That's all you need is that little frequency right there.
Yeah, I went and bought one after we played with it last week.
Oh, cool, Joanne. Yeah. So you know, it's like
So I've been working with it. It's really, Elaine, thank you for sharing that with us and leading it because it's really helping me a lot.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But I think I want the long one now too, that's louder.
okay. So can we do multiple things simultaneously? This place of our own treasure is an opening into the great field of expansive potential that is moving right now. That is life itself. In other words, remember I talked earlier about you being a galactic being that is disguised as a personality with a body that happens to be sitting here or listening to this. This field is resonating with giftedness, and these gifts are something that instead of pursuing and trying to make things better, which as we found out doesn't really work, you're going to allow the gift to find you. Allow the opening of the gate of perception is a communication with a field of resourcefulness and creativity that is innately yours, but it's also, I would call it, the innate resourcefulness and intelligence of creation itself. This is why we go to Teotihuacan. We go there to get an experience of being in that field and recognizing that the innate intelligence of creation is our field of intelligence. It's what I trust most about the work that we do, of what we're doing. I know there's issues and inconsistencies and things go crazy for all of us all the time, but the core to it is this relationship of reciprocity with creation that we are growing. So let's start to make sure you're comfortable. We're probably going to take about maybe about 10 minutes for this, and then we're going to take a little break. I have no idea how many times this sound wants to sound. It's going to sound as many times as it wants to, but it is a remembrance of being in the center of our omnidirectional capacity and looking, rather than being on the periphery and spinning around. So this also means that instead of our loyalty and our allegiance being to the defense of our personalities and our persons in some cases, from all kinds of things that we consider threats, we're moving to a place of invulnerability, of a place of infinite resourcefulness, a place of no limitations, a place of unconditionality, particularly unconditionality of love, for ourselves primarily to start now. That unconditionality is a willingness to allow ourselves to be present without conditions. Okay. And then when you spot and see a condition, just make a little note and we'll bring that back. We'll pull back the rug. Okay, so let's start. A deep breath in through your nose and almost a sigh out through your mouth. We move into a field of awareness, become aware that even what is a single note, a single frequency, a single pitch oscillates. It has waves, it has a shape, and it moves. And as we listen, we begin to notice a shift from thinking. We're still hearing words. There still is a presence in the moment, but something deeper is arising. The sun is coming up. The sunlight of awareness is beginning to warm us. And from this place in the center, we observe it's always been there. The clarity, the expansiveness, the connection with the answers to any question, to the solutions to any problem have always been there. They've all emerged simultaneously in this moment. And if there is an opinion, a judgment, a thought, a condition, a limitation, a yeah, but, oh, so what? We just make a note of it. It's the smallest little dark spot in a huge field of radiance. We keep being called back to the center, to the place where the light shines, where the dream emerges of creation itself. Now we turn to a feeling of our body. Can you feel the weight of your body sitting? How comfortable are you? How are you? Especially if you can wiggle your jaw. We carry our faces around, and we mask and we smile and we talk and we communicate and we shape, and our poor bodies have to go through quite a lot just to seem to be social and presentable. You begin to let that drop. If you need to yawn, that's a really good way to release that tension in the jaws. If you need to bring your hands to your face and give your jaws a little massage, it is a real shortcut, shamanic shortcut. You'd think that rubbing your belly would be the thing that you would need to do, but you let other people do that. You wiggle your fingers into your jaw and just create a little, oh God, what an instant relief it is. It's like, who knew that there were acupressure points right there? And your body celebrates. You breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. That's a very integrating breath. It just allows your body to feel, okay, things are going to be okay. It's a way of really reassuring part of ourself that has anxiety and questions. It allows us to open to the moment. You're fine just as you are, who you are, how you are. If something needs a little bit of movement, if you're feeling your lower back, that's fine. Yeah, attend to yourself. Respond to your body's needs. You are a light-based being in love, unconditionally. So is there a condition? Is there something? Is it my goddamn knee? Is it my hand won't? Is it I'm so stressed I can't sleep? What is it that we say? And let's shift from that. Just allow it to drop in the overwhelming, blazing happiness of being here in a body. Let that light shine from within. I hear real silence. I don't hear many minds commenting, but if you get a comment, make a note. Is my hair too curly? I'm not sure. I'll just make a note, check it out later. Then we turn to this place of flow, the great ocean of being, ever changing. This is, in fact, the place of entry into the vortex that is deep. Our willingness to allow something to happen because it's going to, like it or not. Can we reassure ourselves? Can we give ourselves, from this place of being in the center, a sense of every story is the journey, every story, every moment is changing, the ever-changing present now. Here in this rush of flow and life and energy, there is no past, there is no future. It's now, now, now. Ultimately, we find out there's nothing to hold on to. So what are you holding on to? What are you attempting to keep unchanged? You can allow profound appreciation for the great flow of light and water and life, for the preciousness of it, for the beauty of it, for the magnificence of it, of your experience of it. Knowing that the place that is unconditional, the place that is infinite, the place that is all embracing and all embraced is that place in the center. And having entered here into the great ocean, the great waves, the great movement, we turn to spirit. We turn to that light, that radiance that is the field of illumination, that is our opening and is the opening of everything that is. It turns out that holiness is not somewhere else. Holiness is the holiness of you, of the center of you, the being of you, the gift of you. So let's take the idea that it's somewhere else and someone else, and that there's a hierarchy to it, and that there's going to be hoops you have to jump through, and step away. So where do you feel that someone else's opinion, where someone else's judgment supersedes your own knowing? Where is the place where you are disappointed in that relationship? If you can pinpoint that, you've got it. You've got the little black cloth, whatever it is that is shading you from the brilliance of the illumination that is this light from within you. This is a place of celebration. It really is. This is a place of it. it expresses itself when you are having fun. That is when spirit is alive. So if there's a drag, if something's dragging, make a note of it. That's the rug over this great opening to joy. That is light, that is peace, that is unconditional love. Okay, yeah, very gently, just kind of bring yourself back. So I'm gonna pause the recorder so that we take a little bit of a break. It's a really good opportunity. Everybody got pretty hot, so I recommend like drinking something, like stretch a little bit, use the bathroom, be back here in like 5 minutes, okay?
Here's the
And-
cake I made to share.